Welcome to another episode of Two River TV. I'm John Peters, out in front of the gallery studio of Lucy Kalian, right here in the Locust section of Middletown. Let's go in and take a look. Hey Lucy, how are you?
Hi John.
I love
Feature's
this space.
going to come out and attack you. I love this space too.
Oh, it's great.
It's really good.
And it looks like the original floors and
It is.
original woodworking.
So hi.
Great to see you. Well, you know, it's a very unique looking building. And I talked to a few people. I said, yeah, I'm going to go to Lucy Kalian's studio and we're going to shoot a video. And they're like, where is it? And I said, it's the building that's close to the Blue Bridge. And they're like, oh, I love that building.
Yeah, it looks like it came out of an old Western. Like somebody just popped this facade on it. But the family that still owns it is the family whose grandfather had the general store.
Really?
Yeah, and there was a gas pump out front, right on the other side of this where Pat Dunnigan is. That was the old local post office. And that was the farm field right across the street.
And look at the ceilings.
They're the original ceilings, original floors. It's wild. And when I first moved in, people would stop in. So a man came by with his aide. He was in a wheelchair. He couldn't drive anymore. And he came in and he was so excited because he used to come here and get penny candy when he was a kid.
Wow. When did it stop being a store?
I don't know when it stopped being a general store, but I know that it was an antique store for 50 years.
Okay.
And then it was empty for about 2 years.
So when did you move into this space here?
Interesting question. Remember COVID?
Yeah.
I moved in and started bringing all of my things in the week before the world shut down for COVID. For me as an artist, and you know this too, we work alone. So that was not a big deal. I'm used to being by myself. That's how I work. But the thing that was very difficult for me is that I was creating work for a show, an invitational in Worcester. I delivered everything up there. The show never opened. Oh. And they kept saying, well, maybe we'll open in 2 weeks because we didn't know it was COVID. The work stayed up there for 3 months, never opened. Then I had to go and get everything and bring it back. I had a show in Boston, but everything was shut down. I had a show in Princeton. So that part of it was very difficult. But then the good part was as people started moving into the area, they would be driving by and I'd be working in the window because I just felt like I had to be somewhere, see somebody, and people would just start stopping in, masked,
sure,
but they stopped in anyway.
Sure. I remember stopping by on a bike ride once, probably right around the COVID time.
Yeah.
Right, 2020.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I would see you painting in the window, and I guess because of the light, it's probably great painting right there sometimes.
Sometimes it's beautiful right there. It really is. And then other times you'll see I'm working on a still life right now, and when I'm working on a still life, I set up the lights. I like to work in form lighting, so nothing can change. The light has to be exactly the same all the time. And in fact, when I'm at the drawing portion, remember they're like when artists, you see them doing this and measuring and measuring. So I actually do that. It's old school stuff. But because, an inch one way or the other can make a difference, the shoes that I'm wearing when I do the drawing, I leave those shoes here. Wow. And I usually mark the floor to show where I was standing. So I'm always standing in the exact same spot because I've got to get the drawing down. Once the drawing's down, then I can move around as much as I want because then we're into color and all of that.
Sure.
But
the studio portion is right back here. Let's take a look at that.
Now it is. It's and then I move it back and forth.
Was all of this original? All the woodworking?
Yeah. And behind all of this big mess is another one of those counter units.
Which is great. I love the dental molding.
Yeah.
And the flat panels.
Yeah.
That's great.
And
I've seen you in Huber Woods. Do you often? That's plein air style. Do you ever paint plein air style?
I do.
Or do you do that often?
I don't do it as often as I'd like, but I'm outside really. I'm outside so much. Let me see. Here you go. There's some really ugly. The good thing about being an artist is most people don't see your bad work. This is Huber Woods.
Oh, I love that. I'm very familiar with that. Yeah, I know exactly where that is.
I love it a lot. So, some work better than others. This is that field where they say no sledding
Sure.
every year. So I was up on the thing. And gouache is just easier to work outdoors for me.
And you work with a lot of different mediums.
I do.
It's not just painting. I've seen
Yes.
you work in.
I work in Encaustic, and all my Encaustic setup is at home because I've got to have a fan. I've got to have an exhaust fan, and I've got to have 20 amps per not channel, that's music, but 20 amps per socket to keep everything melting at the same temperature, and that's all at home. That's why I've got somebody helping me with that today, setting up the storage.
Is your encaustic art inspired by Jasper Johns? Or what artist inspired you to get into encaustics?
He's a Japanese artist whose name I can't remember right now. Totally ethereal. It's just melted wax, and you get the sense that there's a landscape there. I'm sorry, I don't have
What size do you work in?
Here, small. The biggest I do is this big in encaustic because it dries. It moves so quickly. It's just not an easy thing to work with, but I love it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different type of a medium.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always thought of Jasper Johns, but I'm sure there's a ton of artists who work.
Oh, so many, but he's one of the most famous.
Most famous, and he was basically looking for something that would dry quick. That's what made him go. I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary where he talks. He had a dream of painting a flag, and he started painting it in oils, but it wouldn't dry fast enough. So he heard about the encaustic. So he says his first painting is a really bad painting, technically,
Right.
because it's a combination of different materials.
Right.
And then he went from there just to strictly encaustic over the years.
Wow. I mean, I like encaustic because I don't, as you can tell, I'm like with all this, my measuring and all that, I like to keep things tidy.
Sure.
And the encaustic, the most tidy I can be is much looser than I am with oil or with graphite. And I love that. It's the only way I can feel like I'm really free. When people look at it, I don't know if they think of it as something free, but yeah, I love it. It's a whole different thing. And I love the way it smells, the beeswax. I love it.
Let's take a look at some of the other pieces in the gallery here. You have some beautiful still lifes that I'm assuming are inspired by walks in the woods.
Yeah, this is my
these
friend John.
acorns I really love.
Oh, thanks. And unfortunately, these are the only ones that are here right now. The rest are all out somewhere, but I love doing acorns. I call them, they're like prophet and promise, right? Like, I don't know, it's just like, they're almost the antithesis of the trees. My trees are everything that has come before us, and they've been here so long.
They're beautiful too, and we're definitely going to take a look at those.
Yeah.
I'm
but
curious
these
about
are
the process.
promise for the future.
Sure.
So this is hysterical. What I do often is, because I love to work from life, so I get a wood background, and I have a board that I use, and I use thread, and I string these up in front of the board so that they are hanging in the exact position that I want them to be in. And then I just sort of, I shine the light till the lighting is just right. And then that way I can work from life. But they're literally being hung with threads like puppets.
Wow.
All over the place.
And you do
Not
that,
this. These
you do
I
that
just
here?
I do them here, yeah.
Can you talk about the process a little bit? How are you treating the wood? Or is there some kind of a special process to paint
Sure.
on raw wood?
Yeah, so I always go through and I make a 50-50 mix with Gamsol, which is just Gamblin's odorless terpenoid. And I mix that with, I like Neo Megilp, also made by Gamblin, and it is similar to Liquin, but without the heavy odor. And I mix that 50-50 and I rub it into the wood. And then when it's completely dry, I give it a light sanding with maybe more than a 120, the finest sandpaper I can get my hands on. And then I'll give it another coat. And then because it's got a little bit of the painting medium in it and the terpenoid, it will accept paint on top of it. Because you can't just varnish it, because then whatever you paint on top of it will eventually crumble back off. So I make sure that I leave the surface open. So after the final painting is done, I still have to varnish on top of that.
It's a really nice natural look. It reminds me of natural linen, but obviously you can see the wood grain, and I just think that adds to it. And I particularly love these acorn shells, the shadows. There's so much detail in there, but at the same time it's very simple, and that's the simplicity is what speaks to me.
This is one of my favorites actually, because people were like, why are you putting just the shells? And I said, because the troops were deployed.
And this is great too with the mussels.
Yeah, yeah.
This one's is this encaustic?
That one's encaustic.
I was going to say, yeah, I really like that.
That was inspired by hanging out at the river. But what happens is over time with air, they seem like they get a little bit dull. So then all you have to do, which makes them very difficult to photograph, but when you go like this, oops, and rub it with any soft cloth, it becomes more and more translucent. And when I work in encaustic, there are all different types of pigment sticks, but when I work in them, I tend to work in all of the semi-transparent colors because that's one of the things that I love. Look at what happened.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's like all of a sudden it changes it up. And for the landscapes, it's fantastic. So usually when I'm working and doing encaustic landscapes, the only thing I will use opaque for is if I'm putting in like where the sun is coming up or where the moon is coming up. That's the only place. And for these, either I pull it out of my head, as I did with this one, or I use all photo references from old landscapes.
I love it. I love the process,
thanks.
and I really like this piece. And I knew it was encaustic immediately, just from it's sort of a telltale surface that encaustic has.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the drawings over here.
Sure. These, they started out, it's kind of a silly story, but a curator from a large gallery in Princeton phoned, and at the time I was doing small studies in my books of trees. You just plop yourself down, it's so much fun to do, and I'd be drawing these trees, and usually what happens is I'll be walking out in the woods and I'll see something and it'll remind me of some specific thought, and so I just have a camp stool with me and I plop it, and so she had seen the small ones, and she said, oh, would you like to do a show, at the gallery in Princeton? I said, sure, I would love to do that. And she said, can you do them on a larger scale? I said, oh, absolutely. I had never done anything bigger than like 5 inches by 6 inches. But I thought that would be wonderful. Anyway, so I started scaling them up, and I titled the series Witnesses. And I just felt like we have so much turmoil around us all the time. And to me, these are like old people. They've been here. They've withstood fires, storms, all sorts of things. So I use that as sort of, it's almost analogous with what we go through as humans. And so I thought, if people could just step and use their wisdom a little bit. But anyway, so that's what, and interestingly enough, a lot of these are all real trees that I've seen and drew and then scaled them up, which is a bear. I now have a little tool that I can use so I don't have to do as much mathematics. But a lot of these trees aren't standing anymore, so I'm glad I did them when I did. And yet they're all on location. For a while, I was even putting like on this one, I put the exact location, because you can pull out the compass thing on your phone. I'm happy to say that, this is a series I started, I think in 2013, and it's an ongoing. I never leave it because thankfully, they sell, and I never stop seeing new trees, so I just keep going.
I think they're great, and I love the material. It looks like you're using a hot pressed paper.
It is a hot pressed paper. It's made by Legion Papers. This one is Stonehenge, and I love working on this paper. I love it. It's cotton.
Is it graphite?
It's all just graphite, nothing else, on cotton paper.
I just love the natural edge. Mm-hmm. It's really beautiful. Your signature, it's very just subdued.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice. And I love the framing too.
Thanks. I didn't want anything to interrupt what I saw. And so I tried to make it so that there was very little distraction.
Just the space. You have this tree over here.
Yeah.
Then you have all of this space.
Well, it's all intentional.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
It's, that's what, this tree, this is the second portrait I did of this particular tree. I was coming up my driveway one way, And this tree from another angle looked like, you know, outside the car lots where there's like the flaily thing, it looked just like that. So I did one and I titled it Every Which Way. And coincidentally and somewhat comically, the person who bought it is someone who's a car dealer, and that's pretty funny. Then we had a wicked storm, and one of the limbs that came out and around that made it look like the flaily thing had fallen off. We lost it in the storm. But I was coming up from the other side. I said, oh, look, now my flaily thing looks like a flamenco dancer. And so I had to do it again. So I titled it Flamenco. That one reminded me of Peggy Fleming from the Ice Capades. I don't know why.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's they're great. I really love this series. Here's another piece on the wood, or painted with the wood background.
Yeah, in fact, in that one, I came up with I started staining the wood in the back to bring out the wood grain just a little bit more. I love wood, as you can tell.
Honey
so
locust?
I have honey locust, yeah.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
I love this is so simple, but it works. I love simple furniture. Like I love shaker furniture.
Yeah.
So it's not that this is a shaker painting, but just the simplicity of it and being able to have the space behind the subject.
Mm-hmm. And I just, you know, I love the green. I love the color, and people don't even really think, they think I just throw it on there, but the direction, I actually look at all the panels before I even get started to make sure that the grain is going in a direction that goes with the lyric thing that I'm trying to portray, you know, the falling of the honey locusts. So in that one, it's quite intentional to have the wood grain going in a particular direction. The one that's back there, the grain is going in the other direction, and you can see that naturally the grain in this piece
almost looks like wind.
This is over at Thompson Park. Yeah, it looks like wind, and naturally in real life, the sky is always darker when you get to the top, and as you get closer and closer to the horizon line, it changes hue a little bit. The pieces get closer together, and so it's great. So if you look at the panels before you even get started, it starts. You know, the painting starts before you even pick up your brush. Yeah.
Now I know you have a show coming up just in a few days. Can you tell me where it is and a little bit about it?
Sure. So none of these pieces and nothing like any of these pieces is in that show. For a long time, I did only still life painting, and like what I'm doing in the back, you can tell that I never actually leave any one theme. So 7 of my still life paintings are going to be at the Oyster Point. I think they started hanging them already. And I believe the reception for that show, the show should be open by now, and the reception is April 11th. From 6 to 8.
Oh, that's cool. I'm going to try to go to that.
Point Hotel. It's wonderful. She's chosen, it's a good curator. Ellen Martin is the curator. And whereas she usually only chooses 2 or 3 artists, this time she went for 12. And it's fun. It must have been a bear hanging it because it's a diverse diverse styles. But I went and I saw them hung, and it looks pretty good.
That's going to be a big opening.
Yeah,
There's going to be a lot of people there.
There's going to be a lot of people.
This was so much fun. I know that I've been in here before briefly, but just to come and visit again and see the work, a lot of fun for me, Lucy. Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming over.
Absolutely.
You're welcome anytime.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to get going. I'll
Okay,
see you later.
Hi to your family.
Absolutely, yeah.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Two River TV. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.